This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
Had a very nice conversation with the woman, with the wife, who sounded like a lovely woman, did not say what the Congresswoman said, and most people aren't too surprised to hear that.
What exactly did the president say to the wife of a fallen soldier, and why was a Florida Congresswoman listening to the call? She claims the president was disrespectful. He says otherwise. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on the week in Washington in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. If you were concerned when we reported last night that a Sarasota student was under arrest for allegedly bringing a gun onto a school bus, well, get this. It turns out the student, 17-year-old Anthony Duncan, is a convicted felon. Students who have felony convictions are not disclosed to parents and other students.
What our policy says, it's up to the discretion of the principal. So the principal feels that he's not in a danger to the other students and to the learning environment, then it's okay.
Duncan went to juvenile court Friday morning and is being held for 21 days. A developing story in Sarasota where police are investigating the body of a man found in a ditch. Detectives are on the scene on 17th Street. Police are not releasing the name of the victim, who is being described as an adult male. If being investigated for child porn isn't bad enough, check out what authorities found during a raid in Pinellas County. Authorities say they found 3 explosive devices and other weapons inside a Dunedin home. Investigators also found aerial photos of 2 Hillsborough County schools and a water treatment facility. Deputies removed 20 guns, 15 knives, a baseball bat with protruding nails, a crossbow, brass knuckles, and gunpowder. Randall Drake was arrested on 2 counts of unlawfully making, possessing, or attempting to make a destructive device. And get this, Drake has been granted $20,000 bail, but is being held for a psychiatric examination. Several neo-Nazis are under arrest for firing a gun at protesters just after yesterday's speech by white nationalist Richard Spencer in Gainesville. Police say the men were arrested after a shot was fired at a group of people. 28-year-old Tyler Tenbrink, 30-year-old William Fears, and 28-year-old Colton Fears were arrested on attempted murder charges. The 3 Texans were in a vehicle after Spencer's speech and began making Nazi salutes and shouting Hitler chants at a group of people at a bus stop. Tenbrink fired a single shot, which missed the people, but hit a building. Several others were charged with resisting arrest and bringing a gun onto campus. Hurricane Irma had a real impact on Florida employment. Florida's jobless rate dropped slightly in November to 3.8%, even though the number of people with jobs fell by 42,000 from August. The drop can be attributed to Irma. Monroe County, which consists of the Florida Keys, saw its unemployment rate grow to 3.3%, up from 2.7% in August.
We have also implemented a very special job search site post-hurricane, which is located at irma.employflorida.com, which helps job seekers find jobs specific to hurricane recovery and allows employers to post those jobs quickly.
The state figures mirror the federal rate, which fell to 4.2% in September from 4.4% in August, but also saw jobless claims grow in large part due to Hurricane Harvey's impact on Texas. It's almost November, which can only mean one thing. We are getting closer to the high school football playoffs. A few teams have clinched spots by winning their districts. ABC7's Adam Cellini is in Wauchula tonight for our game of the week, a matchup between Hardy High School and the Southeast Seminoles from Bradenton. Adam.
Yeah, Alan, we're out east here in Wildcat Country for our game of the week, a huge district matchup between the Southeast Seminoles and Hardy High School. There is some bad blood between these teams, and a win would put either team really in the driver's seat of a district championship, which is now one of the only ways to guarantee a playoff spot under the FHSAA's new point system for their playoff selection. Now, Hardy is coming off of a devastating loss last week. They traveled over to Bayshore High School, where they received their first district took defeat in almost 2 seasons at the hands of the Bayshore Bruins, who got their first win period in almost as long a period of time. But it's also why Southeast head coach Rashad West believes this Hardy team will come out aggressive and looking for some vengeance for their homecoming game tonight. Now, he hopes his defense will be the key for a win for the Seminoles. It's also helped them to their best start since 2004. They are 5-0 and giving up just 11 points per game. But again, he needs this team to match the intensity they will get from the Wildcats.
Just be prepared. I mean, they took one on the chin last week, so we know we're going to walk into a hostile environment. So we've just got to be able to match their focus and their intensity. But we haven't treated any different, man. We think we prepare well each week. So we've followed and stuck to our plan and our guns, and we continue to do the stuff we've been doing.
Some other area games you can catch tonight. Out of Door Academy having their homecoming as well on their last game of the regular season. They will be playoff bound in just a week. Also, Cardinal Mooney jumps 4 classes to host a 7A team at home. It could be valuable playoff points for them. Also, Bayshore may put together a win streak taking on DeSoto at home. It will be their first win streak in that long period we told you about earlier. All those highlights coming up later at 11 o'clock. We hope you join us then. For now, in Wauchula, I'm Adam Cellini. Back to you.
Adam, thank you. Josh, we have had so many Friday nights washed out by rain. How are we looking tonight?
I think we're looking okay. We did have some showers earlier, but those have fizzled out, and now we're left with mostly clear to partly cloudy skies on this Friday evening. Right now, it's beautiful outside. Man, 82 degrees. Can't beat that for a Friday evening. An easterly, northeasterly wind at 14 miles per hour. Those are sustained winds with some higher wind gusts. So that's going to be the story throughout this Friday evening, is the winds coming out of the east and northeast at a pretty good clip, about 15 miles per hour. Here's some of the showers from earlier. They have now fizzled out. There's one lone rogue shower in DeSoto County, in central DeSoto County, but that is starting to fall apart as we speak. So as far as the winds go, as we talked about, it's going to be a little bit breezy for this Friday evening. Current winds sustained at 16 miles per hour out in Anna Maria Island, 11 miles per hour in Bee Ridge. And remember, there's some higher wind gusts with this, maybe up to 18 miles per hour, possibly 20 miles per hour. So some of these football games could get interesting with some of the field goals that's set up here. So our low tonight dips down to 73 degrees. Expect partly cloudy skies. Once again, though, it will be breezy through the overnight and at least the first half of our day tomorrow. The tropics right now, well, there's going to be some interesting things that take place later next week. Of course, we'll break that down for you in the main weathercast. And also, we're also going to have a major change come our way as far as our immediate forecast in the next few days.
Sweater weather.
Could get a little cooler.
All right, thanks a lot, Josh.
Exactly.
And still to come, arguing over what President Trump did or did not say to the parents of a fallen soldier when we return.
In life after the military, it's our duty as veterans to have each other's back. I'm retired Colonel Greg Gatson, and it's my mission to help you get the benefits and services you've earned. If you need to file a VA claim, remember these important steps. Submit an online claim through ebenefits.va.gov. Work with an accredited Veteran Service Organization, or VSO. And if you need to attend a VA claim exam, please go. Visit this website to learn what to expect.
Outdoor living is one of the greatest perks about living in Florida. So whether this is your style, or this, or maybe this, contact Superior Pools. They've been building pools from Sarasota to Naples since 2001, and they would love to build yours.
At Humana, we believe great things are ahead of you when you start with healthy. And part of staying healthy means choosing the right Medicare plan. Humana can help. With Original Medicare, you're covered for hospital stays and doctor office visits when you're sick, but keep in mind you'll have to pay a deductible for each. A Medicare supplement plan can cover your deductibles and co-insurance, but you may pay higher premiums than you do with other plans, and prescription drug coverage isn't included. But with an all-in-one Humana Medicare Advantage plan, you could get all that coverage plus Part D prescription drug benefits, all for an affordable monthly plan premium, and in some areas, no plan premium. It's all described in this free book and DVD. Call for yours and discover how an all-in-one Medicare Advantage plan from Humana could save you money. Call 1-855-395-9803. That's 1-855-395-9803 now.
Christmas Traditions by LuxArt Silks, where more is merrier. Make your holidays sparkle with style. Browse our amazing showroom, cute collectible cottages, and beautiful Christmas displays. Find the inspiration, selection, and quality you need to deck the halls merry and bright. Christmas Traditions also features the area's largest selection of quality pre-lit Christmas trees, every size, shape, and color, and plenty of decorations to make your home shine for the holidays. Christmas Traditions by LuxArt Silks, where more is merrier. Visit us on New 301, just a quarter-mile north of University Parkway.
Enjoy some of the best Suncoast restaurants on me. Just go to mysuncoast.com/dining, sign up for the newsletter if you haven't already, and you can win a $50 gift card to a restaurant in our area. We'll pick a winner each week, so go on our website and sign up now.
The White House press secretary defended Chief of Staff John Kelly Friday after he made erroneous claims about a Democratic congresswoman yesterday. CNN's Jeff Zeleny has more.
Florida Congresswoman Frederica Wilson firing back, accusing White House Chief of Staff John Kelly of lying, keeping alive the controversy over President Trump's condolence call to a war widow.
I heard his remarks, and I heard him say that I bragged that I secured the money for the building of the FBI building in Miramar. He can't just go on TV and lie on me. I was not even in Congress in 2009 when the money for the building was secured. So that's a lie. How dare he?
The Congresswoman responding on CNN to Kelly's searingly personal attack on her from the White House podium on Thursday, where he falsely claims she bragged about securing the money for a new FBI building in Florida.
The Congresswoman stood up, and in the long tradition of empty barrels making the most noise, stood up there and all of that, and talked about how she was instrumental in getting the funding for that building.
But that's not what happened. A review of the video from that 2015 ceremony posted by the South Florida Sun-Sentinel shows that Kelly misrepresented her speech, where she actually talked about turning to Republican House Speaker John Boehner and President Obama to speed up approval for the naming of the building.
Everyone said that's impossible. It takes at least 8 months to a year to complete the process, and I said, excuse my French, oh, hell no. We're gonna get this done.
Kelly, who was in the audience for the speech, also didn't mention that the Congresswoman devoted a third of her remarks to honoring 2 slain FBI officers and effusively praising law enforcement officials.
Will all men and women and first responders who work in law enforcement stand up and down so that we can applaud you and what you do. Stand up.
Kelly used the speech to discredit the Congresswoman for her criticism of the president's call to Maisha Johnson, the pregnant widow of Sergeant David Johnson. The soldier's mother, as well as the Congresswoman, accused Mr. Trump of disrespecting Sergeant Johnson by saying he knew what he signed up for. But Kelly blamed the Congresswoman for politicizing the call.
It stuns me that a member of Congress would have listened in on that conversation. Absolutely stuns me. And I thought at least that was sacred.
The president escalated the feud by blasting the Congresswoman on Twitter, saying, "The fake news is going crazy with wacky Congresswoman Wilson, who was secretly on a very personal call and gave a total lie on content." In point of fact, the Congresswoman knows the family, and the Gold Star wife put the call on speakerphone. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said the White House wanted this debate to end, and then she added a new insult of the Congresswoman.
As General Kelly pointed out, if you're able to make a sacred act like honoring American heroes all about yourself, you're an empty barrel. If you don't understand that reference, I'll put it a little more simply. As we say in the South, all hat, no cattle.
From respecting fallen soldiers to the mystery sounding of their mission that they were on, tax reform. Would you give the president a 10 for handling Puerto Rico? Because that's what he's giving himself. The trapezoid is fueled and at capacity when we return.
A Attention type 2 diabetics. The FDA warns of an increased risk of amputation associated with certain diabetes medications. If you took the diabetes medications Invokana or Invokamet and then suffered an amputation or one of these other serious injuries, call the Rely On group right now. If you've suffered amputation or any of these other injuries after taking your diabetes medication, call the Rely On group today. You may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-604-1698. That's 800-604-1698.
You studied hard, went to college, and achieved your dream, but it turned into a financial nightmare. If you have federal student loans and you'd like to reduce your payments, get more time, or have your loans completely eliminated, then we have good news. With one call to Student Loan Relief Services, you can find support and guidance. We've already helped thousands of people, and we can help you too. If you have $10,000 or more in federal student loans, you can qualify for payment extensions, payment reductions, or you may qualify to have your federal student loan completely forgiven. Call Student Loan Relief Services now to find out about your options. Take control of your finances and get out from under this burden. One of our student loan experts has the answers to your questions and great solutions to ease your financial burden. We're here for you. Call Student Loan Relief Services now.
Call 800-759-0203, 800-759-0203.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. Many people with Medicare may be able to get extra benefits and don't even know they're available. You may be able to get dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drug coverage included in your plan. Call the Medicare Coverage Helpline to see if you can get the extra benefits you deserve. The Medicare Coverage Helpline is now accepting calls. You may be able to get extra benefits, including dental, vision, and prescription drug coverage.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jason Buchwald. Making sure you go to the doctor and taking all your medications as prescribed can help protect your health. To make it easier, you may now be able to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan that includes coverage for dental, vision, and prescription drugs. Help protect your health by choosing the right plan for you and get all the benefits you deserve.
Call to see if you may be able to get extra benefits, including dental, vision, and prescription coverage. Don't miss the annual election period deadline for Medicare Advantage. Call now. Call 800-711-7200. That's 800-711-7200.
Welcome back. The plan this week at the White House was to start a full-court press aimed at getting Americans a tax cut. But as he has managed to do so many times since taking office, President Trump managed to step on his own message, this time by picking a fight with the family of a fallen soldier. You may like President Trump, you may support his agenda, you may blame Congress, you might even blame the media, but 9 months into the presidency of Donald Trump, there has been no major piece of legislation passed and signed into law. And joining us for more is Christine Hughes of the Sarasota County Republican Party, Barry Edwards, a Democratic political consultant, Mitch Perry of FloridaPolitics.com, and we welcome for the first time Kate Bradshaw, news and politics editor at Creative Loafing. Welcome to you, Kate.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Christina, I'm going to start with you. Because as I just said, this happens week after week. We hear it's going to be health care. We hear it's going to be tax reform. The president needs a win. So right from the get-go, why would you pick a fight over this fallen soldier? And the stories throughout the week were about that and not about tax reform.
Well, quite frankly, I think blame goes all around on this one. First, I think Trump was wrong picking on Obama and George W. Bush on how they made calls or letters or did not do that. And he brought up, his chief of staff, General Kelly. I think the media really was out, though, trying to prove that Trump's response was insufficient for the situation. And Congresswoman Johnson, clearly politicized a condolence call that she personally defined as disrespectful. And Kelly even said, and I will agree on that, I think that Trump, he's not a great communicator in being crisp in how he expresses things. And from his heart, he probably tried to. It didn't come out well.
But the reason why it became a bigger story than that is because the president said he calls the family of every fallen officer, which has been limited since he came into office. And in fact, that turned out not to be true. He hasn't called every family.
You're right. And I don't know. I think sometimes maybe he thinks he did and he didn't. I can't explain that one. I just think this whole situation, though, has got multiple moving parts, and everybody needs to take a piece of the responsibility.
Barry, there's been a lot of criticism of the Florida Congresswoman, Frederica Wilson from South Florida, that number one, why was she overhearing this phone call? And number two, why did she need to politicize it?
Well, I think there's been a lot of politicizing. Number one, she was in a car with the family. And I think that the intent by the president, and I think really was good. I think from what I've read in some sophisticated accounts from some academics, he was trying to be Churchillian, and Churchill would talk about the machismo being a soldier. And I think that's what he meant, that you know what you signed up for. He wanted to be in a difficult situation. But it doesn't matter what the president thought or what Frederica Wilson thought, the congresswoman. It matters what the family thought. It's about the family and the soldier. And Trump should have ended it right when the criticism came back and said, hey, that was not my intent. I'm honoring you and your family and your son that died, and the other 3 soldiers died in that incident. But he just can't help himself. He has to push back. He has to be right. Even in a situation that I think he had good intentions, he destroyed it. And then she got involved, and then he attacked her. She wears the hats. By the way, her hats are in honor of her grandmother. And, you know,
I did not know that.
All hat, no cattle. And so he just can't help himself.
Kay, the one thing that Democrats and Republicans and independents do have in common is that we revere our fighting men and women these days. And it seems kind of unseemly that we are debating the body of a fighting soldier coming home.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's across the board. No matter who you talk to, people are disgusted with how political this got, how reality show-esque it got, when we could be talking about, you know, in addition to honoring their memories, we could be talking about what happened that day, and looking into it.
And Mitch, that's the next question, because we don't know what happened that day. And the questions that I have is, number one, why were U.S. soldiers on a mission where they were not allowed to have U.S. air cover? Yeah. Why were French planes there circling about? Why was it a contractor that had to extricate? And why aren't people asking more questions about that?
Well, they are now. You know, I think Senator Nelson's asked for an inquiry, and I think, look, you have to say Benghazi, okay? We had how many, 6, 7 inquiries about that, special select committees? There's going to be one on here because people are going to ask that now after this conflagration ends in the next couple of days, which it probably will. We'll move on to something else. But our foreign policy is, you know, what's going on here? Donald Trump kind of ran actually as a, he criticized George Bush for the Iraq War, and he turned on a lot of the Breitbart folks in terms of being like isolationist here. And what are we doing in Niger? What was this all about? So there's a lot of questions about that. And going just back about the fallen soldier, you know, the video, I saw this video of the widow, you know, bowled over on the casket, you know, crying. And that, to me, is the biggest thing here. And this man, you know, that's what we should be honoring here. And this other stuff is just more soap opera that provided by the president and the media.
All right, we are just getting warmed up, and we'll have much more on the Week in Washington right after we check the First Alert weather, so stay with us.
Hi, I'm Joan London with A Place for Mom. Over the years, we've helped thousands of families find senior care, and today's senior living communities have never been better, with amazing amenities like movie theaters, exercise rooms and swimming pools, public cafes, bars and bistros, even pet care services. And nobody understands your options like the advisors at A Place for Mom. These are local expert advisors that will partner with you to find the perfect place and determine the right level of care, whether that's just a helping hand or full-time memory care. Best of all, it's a free service. Call today. A Place for Mom. You know your family, we know senior living. Together, we'll make the right choice.
Call A Place for Mom right now to get our free ebook on financing senior care, as well as a free referral for senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-290-0352. That's 1-800-290-0352.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. Medicare's annual election period has begun. If you already have Medicare, new benefits may now be available with no copays, no deductibles, or $0 premiums. Call now to speak to a licensed insurance agent who can help guide you step by step through a free analysis of the benefits available to you. And you may be eligible for plans that even include additional coverage for dental, vision, and prescription drugs. MedicareAdvantage.com searches thousands of insurance plans from leading insurance companies. We'll help you find plans that may cost you less, cover more benefits, and give you more choices, like home delivery of your prescriptions, gym memberships, and even over-the-counter allowances for everyday needs, like antacid, allergy medicine, vitamins, and even toothpaste. Don't miss the deadline to enroll. It's time to get more out of Medicare.
Call 800-314-8605. That's 800-314-8605. 800-314-8605. Call now.
Every week on Animal Outtakes, it's a new animal adventure.
The Pit Bull, how this protector breed can make a great family dog.
They're not what they're perceived to be.
And you won't find your prince by kissing this toad. Instead, you might get a trip to the emergency room.
What happens is it'll do this number here.
Woo.
They have enough poison in there they can actually kill a crocodile.
Join us this week on ABC7.
Our conversation on the week in Washington continues right after we get the check on the first alert forecast with meteorologist Josh Stone. Josh.
All right, Alan, it's a beautiful Friday evening. Temperatures look like this: lower 80s, 82 in Sarasota, 78 in Venice. It is 74 in Northport at this time. What are our weather headlines? Well, it's going to be breezy tonight and then tomorrow, at least the first half of the day, but we'll have sunshine. And then a big change comes our way as we get into early to mid next week with a cold front approaching from the northwest that will help to cool down our temperatures into, what did you say earlier, sweater weather? Say that 5 times in a row. We're going to have fall-like conditions come into the area. As far as our forecast as rain goes, just a few spotty showers. These are winding down now here in Sarasota County. No issues with wet weather for this evening. Our high today topped out at 87 degrees, above the average of 84. No official rain to report at the Sarasota Bradenton International Airport. We're approaching a 2-inch deficit of rainfall, but things should change as we get into early next week with this cold front coming down to help bring widespread rainfall. The winds coming out of the northeast and east, anywhere from 12 to 15 miles per hour, and higher wind gusts for this evening. Futurecast remains quiet for our Saturday, but notice what happens on Sunday, the precursor of what's to come. Some spotty showers for our Sunday afternoon and early evening, and then more widespread shower activity looks to come our way thanks to this, the culprit in the Pacific Northwest. This is a trough coming in. This is going to slide all the way down here to the southeast to bring us some wet weather, and then the cooler air will be filtering in behind it to bring the fall-like conditions. People will embrace that, I'm sure. As far as the tropics go, everything actually is pretty quiet, but the models do depict a system that could form here in the Western Caribbean and move up into the Gulf of Mexico and maybe come towards Florida as we get into late next week. But I don't think it's going to be a big storm by any means because we have upper level wind shear that should tear that thing apart. As far as a boating forecast for tomorrow, seas at 2 to 4 feet with a moderate chop in the bays and inland waterways. And there you go. The cold front comes our way as we get into Monday and Tuesday. And look at that. By Wednesday, our high only 76 degrees. The average high this time of the year is 84. So I'm sure a lot of people on the Sun Coast will enjoy the mid-70s in our forecast. Stay with us, everyone. Alan will be right back.
You have type 2 diabetes, which requires daily blood monitoring. If you have diabetes, are you on Medicare, Obamacare, or other health insurance? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for diabetic testing supplies at little to no out-of-pocket cost to you. Our accredited staff will handle all of your paperwork for free. And best of all, your diabetic testing supplies are shipped directly to your home for free. Call now to see if you qualify for a meter upgrade and a free pedometer to monitor your daily walking. Use alternate testing sites, a smaller blood sample, and even hear your results out loud. Will you qualify for diabetic testing supplies and an upgraded meter covered by Medicare, Obamacare, or health insurance at little to no out-of-pocket cost to you?
Find out for free by calling the Diabetes Resource Center at 1-800-394-1098. That's 1-800-394-1098, 1-800-394-1098.
If you're only hungry for a slice of apple pie, why buy the whole pie? And you certainly wouldn't want to pay for an all-you-can-eat buffet. So if you don't use your cell phone that much, why get charged for a plan that's too big, or even an unlimited plan? Luckily, there's still a wireless company that shares your values. Welcome to Consumer Cellular. Our average customer pays about $25 a month for everything they need. Many pay even less, as plans start at just $15 a month. You'll get a straightforward bill that's easy to understand with no surprises and all the attention you deserve from our friendly customer service team. No wonder Consumer Cellular has received the J.D. Power Award for highest customer service 3 times in a row. Plus, if you're an AARP member, you'll receive special discounts. It's easy to switch. You can even keep your phone and your number. So stop paying for more than you need and start your 30-day risk-free trial today. Call 800-457-2317. Go online or visit a Target store today.
It's been about a month, and I can honestly say I've seen the change in me. I went from being a depressed girl who didn't want help to this happy, caring girl who loves helping other people. I just really hope that people that went through what I went through get the help that they need, because their story is important and they are loved. Thank you so much for everything.
Welcome back. We're talking about the week in Washington, and joining us for more is Christine Hughes of the Sarasota County Republican Party, Barry Edwards, a Democratic political consultant, Mitch Perry of FloridaPolitics.com, and we're welcoming for the first time Kate Bradshaw, politics editor at Creative Loafing. Earlier this week, there was really an extraordinary speech by former President George W. Bush, who does not speak out a lot these days. He hasn't since he left office, but he made some pretty interesting comments. Let's take a look.
And our young people need positive role models. Bullying and prejudice in our public life sets a national tone, provides permission for cruelty and bigotry, and compromises the moral education of children. The only way to pass along civic values is to first live up to them.
Christine, it appears to many that the president was talking about President Trump. Did you see the president's comments this week? If so, what did you think of them?
Well, I'd like to talk about Bush's speech, because I read the entire speech. And the headlines, again, from the media were all about Bush's, criticizing Trump. Now, clearly, Bush believes democracy globally. He believes in immigration. And he did talk about the danger of a nationalistic policy. But he also talked about his concern about the complacency of the youth. He referenced Madison, saying the youth of today, they don't understand the Constitution, they're not really understanding civics. And he even talked about Martin Luther King, saying we should not be judging the color of the skin, but the character of the person. So I think in the totalitarian look at his speech, I thought it was more Reagan-esque. I think he espoused more of the philosophy of the conservative Reagan administration.
Right, but he seemed to be taking on this president, President Trump, and the words that he uses and the reaction in terms of how we talk to each other about politics.
Well, I think he was being very gracious in how he expressed it, but clearly he believes that we should not be a country that is so focused from a nationalistic standpoint. I think he made that point very clear, and obviously he's trying to get that point over to the president.
Mitch, let me ask you, does any of what George W. Bush says about Donald Trump have any impact on what you see in terms of Republicans, whether it's in Sarasota or St. Pete or Tampa?
I don't think so. I think George Bush is not really, let's face it, he left office, in the 30s, the polls himself, right? He was not a popular president at the end of his term. And Donald Trump is a very different president, obviously, than George W. Bush. I don't know. I think that there's obviously an element of the Republican Party that misses him, certainly. And you know, I heard liberals even lament George Bush in the days of Trump here. But I think that it's a different era. I think you mentioned immigration. Immigration is the driving force of why Trump got elected, in my opinion, and why it leads the whole, you know, Breitbart banization type of thing, and that's really important to the Republican Party. And they look at George Bush as a traitor on immigration. So I think that no, I mean, I just covered this race in House District 58, which is Hillsborough County, Eastern Hillsborough County. This guy McCord, nobody heard of. What was his biggest thing he had? He was for Trump. The moderate candidate Yvonne Fry was, I think, for Jeb Bush actually. But she was for Jeb Bush, and they really killed her on that. So I think that Trump is bigger in Republican circles than he is certainly mainstream-wise.
All right, so Barry, Democrats are energized these days. Yes. Republicans are reliably come out to vote. I would imagine the secret to success here is who is going to win independent voters. And the question that you got to ask Democrats all the time is, what are you doing in order to come up with a message to do just that?
I'm glad you asked me that. Independent voters, I wrote an op-ed for the Tampa Bay Times a year and a half ago about that. There are no such thing as independent voters. 75% of independent or non-party registrants lean one way or the other toward their party. And if you're a Democratic-leaning independent, you're more likely a Bernie Sanders supporter. You're an independent and lean toward the Democrats because the party's not liberal enough. The same thing with the Tea Party independents. They're independent because the Republican Party's not conservative enough.
Well, what do you think about the independents, though, in this case?
So there's only about and that's why the Republicans have won, like Romney, who, when he lost to President Obama, won the independent vote by almost double digits. I mean, so the Republicans have been winning the independents consistently the last decade and a half. There's only about a quarter of the independents that are truly swing voters, and that's about 5% of the electorate. Those are the ones everybody's going after. But if you look at Florida, the last 4 elections, president, governor, 1%.
So, Kate, let me ask you this, because the president this week intended, but failed, to make it all about tax reform.
Right.
And we had an economist on the other night who said, you know what, when you argue for tax cuts, it's a pretty straightforward argument. If you're going to argue that the Trump plan is not this, it's not that, it's a much more complicated argument. When you look at the people who are, you know, voters around here, whether it's Pinellas, the Suncoast, you know, Tampa, you know, what are you hearing in terms of their interest in tax reform and tax cuts?
I mean, honestly, I don't really hear much about it. I think it's the whole show is kind of captivating right now. But yeah, and you know, the Tampa Bay area is such a mixed bag. I mean, it's either people want those programs and they see the need for revenue, or they don't. I mean, it's split.
I just see, Richard Corcoran, the House Speaker, who may be running for governor next year, he held a press conference in Tampa on Wednesday where he was all gung-ho for these tax cuts. And I said to him, you know, isn't it going to raise the deficit? Because that's what some independent, you know, groups say. And they say, no, they're going to have so much growth out of this that it's going to obliviate that. So the hardcore Republicans are very much behind the tax cut plan. But the rest of us don't really know much about it.
We learned with David Stockman that you're going to have deficits.
Let me bring up another interesting...
Republicans like them now when they're in power.
Let me bring up another interesting issue here. 1 month later, most of Puerto Rico still does not have electricity. There's been a lot of talk that there are a lot of Puerto Ricans who are moving to Florida, and whether or not that could change the political landscape here in Florida. There's been a lot of criticism about the federal response to Puerto Rico. President Bush was asked yesterday how he would grade himself. This is what he would say.
Between 1 and 10, how would you grade the White House response so far to the... I'd say it was a 10. Did the United States, did our government, when we came in, did we do a great job? Military, first responders, FEMA, did we do a great job? You responded immediately.
Yeah, I got President Bush on the mind here. President Trump. Christine, I don't know too many people around here who believes that the federal response deserves a 10 on the scale of 10.
Well, Puerto Rico is clearly kind of a special case. First of all, I think that you had an island, so there was some delay in getting things there. They were showing scanning the port, and they didn't have truckers, you know, drivers to get any of the supplies to the people that needed it. Puerto Rico's $70 billion in debt. It's been a known fact for years that their electric grid hasn't been even addressed. So that was, I mean, it's going to take more than just FEMA in the short term to try to address this whole infrastructure issue. The other thing that Trump did say, though, is maybe we just have to write off the debt that Puerto Rico has to get going again.
But then he was corrected by his Director of Office of Management and Budget.
Right, OMB, right.
Mick Mulvaney.
Right.
I think that this is a problem still. Marco Rubio said weeks ago that we should have the military in there. It's gone on deaf ears. A lot of people in Florida care a lot about this. You mentioned the fact that we've heard like 100,000 people perhaps may come to Florida.
Up to 500,000.
Really?
That's probably too high.
And you know, it's already changed politics in the Orlando area where there's more Congress members from Democrats over the last election. Darren Soto, the first Puerto Rican member of Congress from Florida. And we see in these gubernatorial and presidential elections that Democrats lose by 1.2%, what have you. This could very much be a game changer with all these Puerto Ricans coming over to Florida.
The last two gubernatorial races were 60 and 80,000. And so if you've got 100,000 Hispanic from Puerto Rico, now they're not all going to vote, but they're probably 70, 80% are going to vote for the Democrat.
All right, we have to take a quick break, and we'll return with final thoughts when we come back.
40 million. That's the number of free phones still available and the number of how many Americans can still get prescriptions free.
Free could be wonderful. That's why I'm still working at 77 years old to pay off my prescriptions.
I needed to have a prescription filled and I had to leave because I couldn't afford it.
Call now and see what's available for you. Free prescriptions. Over 10 million people get prescriptions free, and the program has expanded so another 40 million can. Free dental. Over 15,000 dentists have provided over $330 million in free dental work. Free cell phones. 40 million free cell phones are still available with free minutes and more.
Free cell phone would change my life right now because it is something I cannot afford to get.
Medical supplies like back braces, knee braces, and diabetic supplies may be covered too. The free RX Plus hotline has saved callers over $12 million on their prescription costs. These free programs are now available to 40 million more people. Call now.
This is an important medical announcement. Xarelto and Pradaxa have been linked to uncontrollable bleeding and even death. If you've been prescribed one of these drugs and have experienced these dangerous side effects, you may be entitled to substantial compensation. Studies show that Pradaxa can cause more heart attacks than warfarin, and other countries have already issued safety warnings against this drug. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. The call is confidential, there's no cost, and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to Pradaxa victims, and thousands of Xarelto victims are filing their legal cases. Call the Drug Watch hotline if you or a loved one used Xarelto or Pradaxa and experienced uncontrollable bleeding, brain hemorrhage, or even death. You must call now.
Call 800-793-6055. 800-793-6055.
Check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, step-by-step videos, and Suncoast Restaurant Guide. You'll find it all at mysuncoast.com/dining.
Our guests join us right now for final thoughts, and we're all looking at the tea leaves. How do the events in Washington affect the politics here on the Suncoast? There was a special election in Miami, Kate, a few weeks ago. The Democrat won over a seat that was in Republican hands for a long time. The next one up on the list is the St. Pete's mayoral race. The current mayor, Rick Reisman, against the former mayor. It's been so close, Kate, and you've been following it. Where are we at?
Well, just today, results from a poll conducted yesterday were released that, you know, they're neck and neck, and for the first time, it showed Kreisman beating Baker. I mean, it was like by 0.8 of a point, but point being, this was the first time that polling had shown that, even though he won the.
And Christine, we have our own special election coming up in a couple of months to replace Alex Miller, who resigned.
Yes.
What's the sense among the Republican Party here in terms of how competitive this race is going to be? You obviously have Congressman Buchanan's son running, but the Democrats are going to have a very competitive primary.
Well, I think that I don't think Buchanan's campaign is taking anything for granted. I think they understand that the Democrats are very energized, as we're hearing. And I think it's going to be a good race. But as I've said before, Buchanan is going to he'll win that race.
Barry, are these special elections a real test in terms of whether Democrats, whether it's around here or around the state, can get their act together?
No. If you look at nationwide, the larger the electorate is, the more likely the Republicans to hold the seat. There was a couple specials where they won some state house seats where they had like 1,000 or 2,000 people voting. So those are not going to be mirrored what you're going to see in real general elections. So the best test is when we see in Virginia in the elections there, we have a broader, a broader turnout that's going to be more reflected. So no, these aren't, and I liken that to Tadeo, but remember that seat was held by a black Democrat for 24 years. The Republicans should never have got the seat, and they only held it for 10 months.
If I could just say about the St. Pete mayor's race, Trump, Rick Kreisman is trying to tie Donald Trump, Rick Baker, Donald Trump as Republicans.
Exactly.
Interesting that Baker did a radio ad yesterday for the first time. He actually said he'll protect St. Petersburg against Donald Trump. So even Baker, the only time he's acknowledging Trump, is saying, I'm going to be a bulwark against Trump in St. Petersburg. Interesting.
Right, but every time you have one of these special elections and a Republican wins it, it kind of adds to your storyline, which you have written a lot about, that the Democrats locally and statewide do not have their act together.
Yeah, and I think that it'd be fair, as Barry says, about the St. Pete election, which is what we're all focusing on here locally, Kate, myself especially, that is more, it's very local. I mean, in fact, the Kreisman's been criticized for trying to nationalize it because the issues have nothing to do with Washington, D.C. They have to do with sewage and things like that. So maybe, if Baker does win, do we really say that has anything to do with Trump? It's probably a leap there.
And final point, we have 1 minute left. A new Gallup poll finds that Americans' approval of the United States Congress is 13%. Christine, what does that mean to you?
I think it's not surprising because they haven't done anything. So,
but that means, it falls on our own congressional delegation, does it not?
Well, it does. But I think that now that they have passed a budget, and we can debate that some other time, the tax cuts are going to make people look at Congress. If they get that through, I think Congress's approval will go up. The market is going crazy. Over 23,000 points. Small businesses are feeling that their regulations are being, loosened. People are feeling generally good.
All right, we have to leave it there. But before we go, we want to share with you some thoughts about last night's topic, white nationalist leader Richard Spencer speaking at the University of Florida. He was met by hundreds of protesters. $600,000 was spent on law enforcement to ensure everyone would be safe. Aside from a few arrests, there were few problems. Michael says, I thought universities are where ideas are exchanged, whether you agree with them or not. See Berkeley, 1960s. Ian says, I thought we had a world war that said Nazis were evil. What happened to that? And Gary says, seriously, if everyone would just stay away, including the instigating and provoking media, there would not be a problem. No stage, no show. This got all the attention he wanted, and the media satisfied their thirst for promoting division. Sad. No, what's sad, Gary, are people who bury their heads in the sand. These people are out there. They walk among us. They feel empowered these days, and it's the responsibility of the news media to report that. As Elie Wiesel said, quote, never again the glorification of base, ugly, dark violence. Well, if you'd like to join the conversation about tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions. They're on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And remember, you can stay up to date on the latest breaking news instantly, like the University of Florida's situation, with the ABC News app. If you have an iPhone or an iPad and currently have our news app, you'll need to go to the App Store now and search for WWSB or My Suncoast, then download the new version. If you're an Android user, you'll just get the new version automatically. We want to thank our guests for being here tonight. Christine Hughes of the Sarasota County Republican Party, Barry Edwards, a Democratic political consultant, and Mitch Perry from FloridaPolitics.com, and Kate Bradshaw, the news and politics editor at Creative Loafing. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather. Plus, the Trump Commission met on how to deal with the opioid crisis. Stay with us.
Attention type 2 diabetics. The FDA warns of an increased risk of amputation associated with certain diabetes medications. If you took the diabetes medications Invokana or Invokamet and then suffered an amputation or one of these other serious injuries, call the Rely On group right now. If you've suffered amputation or any of these injuries after taking your diabetes medication, call the Rely On group today. You may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA has recently warned about an increased risk of leg and foot amputations associated with the use of certain diabetic medications such as Invokana and Invokamet. If you or a loved one took the diabetes medications Invokana or Invokamet and then suffered an amputation, ketoacidosis, kidney failure, or even death, call the Rely On group now. We are here to help you get the justice you deserve. You may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-355-8205. That's 800-355-8205.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. Many people with Medicare may be able to get extra benefits and don't even know they're available. You may be able to get dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drug coverage included in your plan. Call the Medicare Coverage Helpline to see if you can get the extra benefits you deserve. The Medicare Coverage Helpline is now accepting calls. You may be able to get extra benefits, including dental, vision, and prescription drug coverage.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jason Buchwald. Making sure you go to the doctor and taking all your medications as prescribed can help protect your health. To make it easier, you may now be able to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan that includes coverage for dental, vision, and prescription drugs. Help protect your health by choosing the right plan for you and get all the benefits you deserve.
Call to see if you may be able to get extra benefits, including dental, vision, and prescription coverage. Don't miss the annual election period deadline for Medicare Advantage. Call now. Call 800-711-7200. That's 800-711-7200.
Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment, but right now let's get a final check on our first alert forecast from meteorologist Josh Stone.
All
Josh.
right, Alan. Yeah, it's actually a very nice evening. Partly cloudy skies right now, 82 degrees. The temperature, humidity at 60%, but the winds are the story for this evening. Streaming out of the east or northeast at 14 miles per hour. As far as shower activity goes, we did have some showers earlier today. Those have fizzled out, and other than maybe a stray light rain shower that could stream into the Suncoast, I think everything's going to be very quiet. So not affecting any of the Friday night high school football games at all. Closer look at some light showers, maybe a raindrop or two over Northport, but that really is about it. Probably that's Virga, and Virga, all that means is some rain's coming out of the clouds, but it's evaporating before it's even hitting the ground. We topped out at 87 degrees today, above the average high of 84. Rainfall, nothing doing. We're still, in a deficit. We're closing in on about 2 inches of the departure from normal, but that should change as we get into early next week. Once again, winds coming out of the northeast and east for this evening, about 12 to 15 miles per hour at times with some higher wind gusts, but the winds slowly will subside as we get into tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. We'll have a nice Saturday with mostly sunny skies. Then look what happens on Sunday. Clouds increase and a little more shower activity pops up here on our futurecast. And it does look like that's the precursor of what's to come, because a cold front that's charging in the Pacific Northwest right now, well, some very chilly air behind it, and that's going to slide all the way down here to the southeast to bring us some fall-like conditions as we get into our Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. The tropics, well, not a lot of activity at all. In fact, National Hurricane Center showing nothing that is in the immediate future of developing. However, the caveat is the computer forecasting models are depicting a system, and it hasn't developed yet, but it should get going in the Western Caribbean by the middle to latter part of next week, and then shoot up to the north and eventually the northeast, putting Florida right in its path. So we'll have to monitor that. I don't think it's going to be a big storm by any means, but it still will bring us some shower activity and maybe some gusty winds at times. Because the upper level wind shear probably would just tear that thing apart. Well, there's your fall-like conditions by mid-next week. Look at the high on Wednesday. 76 degrees, so looking pretty good there. Stay with us, everyone. Alan will be right back.
The following message is brought to you by Mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions.
How did I get this disease? What are my treatment options? How will this affect my loved ones? You need answers, which is why we offer a free book written by medical professionals who have treated mesothelioma.
Call toll-free at 1-800-777-1366 or go to mesobook.com.
This is an important medical announcement. Bard IVC filters have been linked to punctured veins and problems with migration. Anyone who's received a Bard IVC filter must receive medical monitoring and may be entitled to substantial compensation. If you have the Bard Recovery G2 or G2 Express filter, you are in a class of patients who should be compensated for some expenses. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. This call is confidential. There's no cost and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to people who should have been warned about the risks of the Bard IVC filters. Call the IVC Filter Hotline if you or a loved one has received an IVC filter and experienced a vein puncture or required medical monitoring. You must call now.
Call 800-329-3089. 800-329-3089.
I heard about the Dotoli Cancer Center through friends of mine who had been treated here and were very pleased with the treatment.
If there is prostate cancer, we at the Dotoli Cancer Center will find it using 3D color flow Doppler ultrasound.
And that helped precisely identify where my cancer was and some additional cancers that were not found during the biopsy. I would recommend the Dotoli Cancer Center. As a group of human beings, they are unbelievably great.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Checking primetime headlines, President Trump's Commission on Combating Drug Addiction and the Opioid Crisis met for the fourth time today. Members discussed insurance issues related to the opioid epidemic. The meeting comes after Trump pledged on Monday to declare a national emergency to fight opioid overdoses. That would give state and federal agencies more resources. Fighting the opioid epidemic was a key talking point during Trump's presidential campaign, and he has promised to declare a national emergency before. According to the CDC, the number of American deaths involving opioids has quadrupled since 1999. First Lady Melania Trump is donating her inaugural ball gown to the Smithsonian. She is donating it to the museum's First Lady's collection. It has been a tradition for more than a century. The collection's curator says it started with Helen Taft in 1912. 4 million visitors passed through the First Lady's collection in the last year. Director Quentin Tarantino is apologizing for staying silent about Harvey Weinstein's alleged sex abuse. Tarantino, a frequent Weinstein collaborator, said in a New York Times interview, quote, "I knew enough to do